Investigating the FBI criminally, Mueller and others for 11 months. Is President Trump's legal team preparing for an imminent obstruction of justice charge? Is the question a lot of mainstream media is asking. And you've got NBC News. Dianne Feinstein, Senate Republican probe building obstruction case against Trump. That came out on Sunday. What did I tell you on Friday? It's always been about obstruction. Not that Trump did anything wrong. Not that Trump ever colluded. Not that Trump ever sold out U.S. interest. Everything the Democrats have done in spades, in triplicate, at legendary level. No. Well, on Friday, I laid it out. The fact that Mueller's kept jury of swamp things in the District of Criminals is preparing to claim that the president has obstructed justice and have a grand jury attempt to nullify the 2016 election, the political realignment, and the burgeoning economic recovery. That's their stated goal. And you can see the writing on the wall. They want to get this going by the end of the year. They've canvassed the Republicans, the Democrats have, saying your boy is going to be gone by the new year. We, of course, broke that information. And knowing of their plan to roll out this fake investigation and exposing what frauds they are and exposing how staged it is critical to derailing that. And now you see it's been happening. I know from White House sources that Trump's two personal lawyers continue to tell him, you didn't do anything, you didn't obstruct, so you have nothing to worry about, just don't talk to Flynn. And Trump's done nothing wrong, so he's like, okay, I'm not worried about it. Then one of the lawyers on Friday tweets, as if he's Trump, yes, the president knew that Flynn had lied, so that's why he was fired. Well, back at the time, we were told it was because he reportedly got crosswise with the vice president, and that's why he was fired, but not lying to the FBI. So again, you have the Democrats in bed with the Russians to an unbelievable level. You have this whole collusion investigation going on for over a year and a half, 11 months officially, with Mueller, and there's nothing there. All the NSA transcripts, all the spying, all the surveillance. You see a president working hard. You see his national security advisor working hard. So now they're changing it to, oh, the Logan Act. You were talking to foreign officials in an unofficial capacity. Well, that goes for members of Congress and people under the president who aren't on sanctioned trips, and the Democrats constantly violate it, Republicans violate it, but Trump isn't violating it because he's the president reaching out to foreign leaders. There's nothing there. They're acting like if the president gets up in the morning, he's committed a crime. But here's the big news. The DOJ's been investigating the FBI criminally, Mueller and others, for 11 months. House Intel chairman draws up contempt charges against FBI after Stonewall. Republicans prepare for war with FBI, DOJ to file contempt action over anti-Trump bias. Dershowitz, no case for obstruction of justice against Trump. Continuing, is President Trump's legal team preparing for an imminent obstruction of justice charge? Is the question a lot of mainstream media is asking. And you've got NBC News. Dianne Feinstein, Senate Republican probe building obstruction case against Trump. That came out on Sunday. What did I tell you on Friday? It's always been about obstruction. Not that Trump did anything wrong. Not that Trump ever colluded. Not that Trump ever sold out U.S. interest. Everything the Democrats have done in spades, in triplicate, at legendary level. No. They're going to claim the president talking to Comey going, Flynn's a great guy, leave him alone. Yeah, I hope if he did do something, you go easy on him. That's what a mom would say to a judge if their son got caught reckless driving or stealing pumpkins out of the pumpkin patch. Judge, I hope you can go easy on him. Except Trump's the president. He could have ordered Comey to do nothing. So that's all they've got. And we've got Comey in Congress saying the president didn't obstruct, in his opinion, but now they're trying to walk that back and change it. And these are the swamp things. These are the unelected individuals who now are hanging their hat on obstruction and hanging their hat on the Logan Act when there's no evidence of either one. And instead there's Comey and Mueller and others covering up for the Clintons to engage in legendary paper play, not just with Russia, but with over 100 other countries and corporations in the Clinton Foundation. So if they could maneuver this in the media and maneuver this in the culture and somehow sell the idea that this is real, they're going to go with it. By the way, ABC News made the strategic decision an hour after the indictment was already out, saying specifically Trump ordered Flynn to make contact with the Russians when he was president-elect, which is completely kosher and normal, and he should be impeached if he wasn't making contact with the Russians once you're president-elect, because they got nuclear weapons. They had their head of their investigative bureau, Brian Ross, went with what he knew he needed to do. And if he's got to be a sacrificial lamb and get suspended for 4 weeks, so be it. He takes one for the team. He goes out there and he says, this says, and my sources say, he did this 6 months before the president was even president-elect, to specifically wound the president and charge up the troops and have hype all over the nation where the people buying into this say, see, we're vindicated, so they finally got a shot in the arm. Because it doesn't matter, it got retracted by the evening. I had people at the grocery store and a restaurant on Saturday come up and tell me, F you, you Russian agent. And they're on the street. I get the emails. I see it on Facebook, Twitter. They're saying this is real. They don't care. So that shows you how dirty these individuals are. I mean, just look at Joy Behar on The View in ecstasy. He'd already been out an hour that this had broken. But they send out the aide, they send out the producer to hand her a card, and then she reads it, and they are in ecstasy. The other harpies, the other banshees, are just in ecstasy with their disinfo and their lies that, oh, during the campaign, Trump ordered Flynn to make contact with the Russians. And they're still running news articles on the Huffington Post and other places saying it's real. They're not retracting it on the Huffington Post. They're not retracting it. No. They're still passing those videos around. And so low information voters can sit there in a restaurant or in a grocery store to the Trump family or myself or anybody else and walk over and say, I knew you were a Russian agent. You're going to go to prison. And they have congressional hearings and say it about me too, with no evidence. They say InfoWars gets its news from the Russians and follows their orders. I come in here and look at hundreds of articles, video clips, look at everything. The Russians have very little influence on me. British news has a much bigger influence. That just means where I'm reading news. It's just crazy, but they don't care. They're the globalists. They're the outside power, and they're getting ready to try to remove the president. So here's Joy Behar. Here's Joy Behar celebrating the disinfo that they're sharing. 3 days later, still on the internet, they don't care. Here it is.
Welcome back to the show.
Breaking news.
Oh, my God. Oh, breaking news. ABC News' Brian Ross is reporting Michael Flynn promised full cooperation to the Mueller team and is prepared to testify that as a candidate, Donald Trump directed him to make contact with the Russians. Yeah!
Yay! We're going to destroy the recovery. We're going to arrest the president. We're going to have a civil war. Yeah! to America. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Ooh. Oh. Oh, we're going to kill the country.
Mr. Armstrong, you'd mentioned in your answer to, I think, Ms. Spears' question, that there are other RTs operating in the U.S. Can you describe them, list them?
Sure, thank you. So you have RT, you have Sputnik, you have Rupley, and then I think you have them feeding other entities. InfoWars comes to mind, where those are echo chambers.
Dr. Comey, are you aware that Roger Stone played a role in the Trump campaign?
I'm not going to talk about any particular person here today, Mr. Schiff.
This bizarre circular thing happening where the president cites a theory that he was wiretapped, which developed on the kind of fringe right-wing media. And then after his tweet storm, InfoWars then started saying, well, look, it was the New York Times that reported it, citing our story, misreading our story. And now, a few weeks later, the White House and the president are citing InfoWars.
Are you aware that Mr. Stone also stated publicly that he was in direct communication with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks?
Same answer.
We're going to start shutting Alex Jones and others down, and we're going to sue them, and we're going to have the Justice Department come after them. And get this, folks, if they can shut us down, you're next.
You know, I think it's really important as we sit here that we explain this to the American people in a way that they can understand it.
We are at war with Russia.
So would you say that Russia engaged in hybrid warfare in its effort to undermine our democratic process and engage in our electoral process? Director Comey?
They engaged in a multifaceted campaign of active measures to undermine our democracy and hurt one of the candidates and hope to help one of the other candidates.
I actually think that their engagement was an act of war.
You said we were attacked by Russia. That's not a small thing.
Yes.
An attack doesn't just invite a counterattack, it demands one, else you reveal your fundamental weakness and get attacked again.
Never in the history of our elections has a country attacked us the way that Russia has.
I think before government officials change our foreign policy and declare war against a sovereign country, as you all are attempting to do, we, citizens, have a right to know on what basis you're doing that.
If there is objection, and I note the senator from Kentucky on the floor, I will say before I read this, if there is objection, you are achieving the objectives of Vladimir Putin. You're achieving the objectives of trying to dismember this small country that has already been the subject of attempted coup. If they object, they are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly.
Senator from Kentucky.
I object.
Objection is heard.
The senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin.
You're carrying water for the Kremlin.
I'm not carrying water for the... You're a sitting member of Congress on the Intel Committee, and you can't say they hacked...
You're gonna have to move your shoulder to RT Russian television because...
You know what? That's just so beneath your office because it's so dumb and you're being duplicitous. I'm asking you, did they hack Podesta's emails? And you can't say it.
Personal insults like that, Tucker.
You just said I was carrying... You said I was carrying water for Putin.
Russian scum!
Our battleships weren't sunk and our towers didn't collapse a la 2011. But make no mistake, 2016 is a year that we should mark on our calendars. And it's still going on. The attack didn't end on Election Day.
Donald John Trump, a man who, to borrow a phrase from another December long ago, will live in infamy.
If we discover that Donald Trump or his advocates played a role in helping to devise strategy, if they're the ones who came up with crooked Hillary, if they're the ones who came up with she's ill, something's wrong with her energy, and the way that he basically, described her in the campaign, I think that is something that would put the question squarely on the table whether or not he should be impeached.